welcome back to the Runpreneur vlog. And today we're going to be talking about the contingency planning process when things don't go your way. So the Runpreneur vlog is part of the bigger picture, which is the Runpreneur challenge, which is our mission to save the lives of children by raising £1 million for 6 amazing children's charities, which between them support and cover the whole spectrum of issues affecting children on a global scale. We'll try and raise this money by attempting the ultimate ultra marathon of run vlogging on consecutive days, the distance of one lap around the world. So to put it in perspective, it is a 12-year challenge of consecutive daily running. I'm averaging 9.2 kilometres every day whilst vlogging, and I even do it barefoot style. It's 40,075 kilometres in total distance. That's just shy of 25,000 miles, and it's going to take 4,292 consecutive days of running to accomplish. I'm on day 502 today, so I'm about 12% of the way there. So if you want to support the challenge, please go to the links in my bios or go to the website challenge.runpreneur.co. It is just .co, there's no .co, .uk or .com, and Runpreneur is spelled RUNPRENEUR, challenge.runpreneur.co. Thank you for your support, and let's get started. So, I've always referred to myself throughout this process as a serial entrepreneur and running philanthropist. So the running philanthropy comes from the Runpreneur challenge and everything I'm doing here in the running challenges. The serial entrepreneur side comes from me trying to run multiple businesses simultaneously, which provide a lifestyle that allows me to focus on my running philanthropy. Well, sometimes things don't quite go to plan, and entrepreneurship for me is predominantly about problem solving. Okay, I've always said kind of 3 things are super important in entrepreneurship. 1 is communication, 2 is problem solving ability, and 3 is understanding numbers. Okay, those 3 things. And quite often it's the problem solving and it's how efficient and how effective and how quickly you can solve problems, which is the biggest difference between the top entrepreneurs and the not so quite successful entrepreneurs. Most of them can communicate, most of them understand numbers, but it's that ability to solve problems in the most quick and efficient manner which can often separate the best from the not quite so good. And we often get things that are presented to us in business that requires tests our problem solving skills to the max. I mean, at this moment in time, I've had we've just done a massive forecast on working with one of our biggest lease providers, and today we've been informed the lease provider is having to heavily reduce their rates, which means that so many of the deals that we've worked so hard to negotiate are not going to be viable anymore because they just don't stack from a numbers perspective, which is another skill of entrepreneurship. So the problem has presented itself that we've got this big forecast that we're basing decisions on, which has now been basically ripped up and we have to start again. So what was an extremely viable pipeline of, I think, 68 properties, we're going to find out the damage, but it's probably going to be reduced to maybe a third in size. So obviously all the revenue and profit projections will have also been reduced by potentially 2/3 or 67%, which is huge. And to many businesses that can be the difference between success and failure. It can be the difference between people having jobs and not having jobs. So fortunately, I'm pretty well versed in overcoming adversity as an entrepreneur and having contingency plans. So I think it's important today that I ultimately kind of go through my contingency planning process for what I'm presented with at the moment. This is real time because this is fresh, hot off the press today. So yesterday it was a very, very different scene to what it is today. So my process is first and foremost is try and get the emotional thought process out of your system. Now the first emotion I have is anger, frustration. I want to almost come out and scream in that, you know, all the hard work and effort we put in over the past months and months of work could potentially be undone now. I'm just going to let this tractor go past, which is incredibly frustrating. But when you start cutting through the kind of emotional thought process, so let's look at the facts. We don't know how damaging. We're predicting it's going to potentially wipe out 2/3 of the pipeline. Okay, we still have a pipeline, and we're still going to have revenue coming in, and we're still going to have, you know, recurring income coming in from this, which is good. So part of the model originally was to hold the highest return on investment deals and to sell the slightly lower. Now, put it in perspective, the best ROI deals are 100%. The not so good ones might be 50 to 75%, which is still an amazing ROI. So my first thought process is, well, actually, let's try and hold all of the ones that are going to get through. So that means that the holding business is still pretty much online with expectations or targets. It's the selling part of the business, which is where we were doing all the sales, which has now been hit. And I then look at the side of things and we think, well, we currently work with 3 different lease providers at the moment. I was informed most recently that there's 11,000 lease providers in the UK that we can hit. So we are dealing with the absolute minute number of lease providers. Now, we are dealing with probably the biggest ones with the biggest financial muscle, but that's not to say that there are several at a slightly lower level which could more than cover what we're going to be offering. Okay, so that's the first thing, understanding the market. So there's a huge untapped territory. Now we're partnering with with another company who've already done due diligence on 500 of these lease providers and have passed 50 of them as being viable opportunities to scale and sustainably work with for the next number of years. So we're going to be unlocking the doors to these 50 so we can instantly switch our focus onto these new areas. Now the returns might not quite be as high because the reason we were so focusing on what we're currently doing with our main lease provider in the south is that the rates were so high, able to get really high return on investment. But let's not get greedy. Okay, we were predominantly hitting 100% return on investment, which is staggering, money back in a year, and then a further 9 years plus of profit, which is just phenomenal. But you know what? If we get 75%, which I think is very, very achievable, that's money back in 18 months. Still amazing. And even if we get 5-year leases rather than 10, that's still 3.5 years of profit after money back. So there's still some amazing opportunities there. It just means that we're knocked back slightly. So I will be adjusting the forecast over the weekend. I wouldn't normally work the weekend, but when stuff like this happens, I like to try and deal with it. At least get some plan, some form of plan in place. So I'll be adjusting my forecast, again, focusing on numbers. I've talked about the problem-solving aspects of what I've just faced, so I've tried to factually unravel what's happened today and put some contingencies in place and put some ideas run some ideas through my mind, which is going to formulate a new plan. And I've tried to evidence and put some realism to it. So the final part is the ability to communicate as an entrepreneur. So on Monday, I'll be speaking to the lease provider again, just to understand the aftermath of this and what the future opportunities are with them. And I'll also be having further discussions with our collaborators or partners with the extra 50 lease providers. And we'll be starting to expedite the process of unlocking the doors with them. So what might be the damage limitation side of things here is with what we've still got in the existing pipeline, we can still process, okay, a third of it. So that gives us a couple 2 to 3 months worth of work that we've still got to deliver on, by which time we can have our new lease providers in place, our new sourcing mechanisms and processing systems up and running, which means that from the end of the year, we can be producing potentially more revenue than we'd be producing on the existing model. So the process is that the other thing that people can do when things go wrong or when plans go awry or fall apart is that they can deviate too much. It would be easy for me just to say, you know what, this model is flawed. But it's not flawed. The issue is that we were too over-reliant on a lease provider. Now, we're still working with 2 other lease providers on a much smaller scale, so we can quite quickly increase the volume that we do with them. Okay, there's going to be a lag because we don't have a healthy pipeline for those areas at this moment in time. But introduce more lease providers and then start looking at how we diversify the split of business. I.e., we don't want to, maybe we were operating on a 70-20-10 process. Maybe we have one lease provider that's working really well that we can scale up to maybe 70% of the revenue. But let's have 20 with a secondary lease provider and 10% with a third. Now, if truth be told, we're probably operating at maybe 90 to 95% with our main lease provider currently, and maybe 5 to 10% with the second and third lease provider we have in place. So the idea behind it will be to increase the business with the second and third lease providers to kind of, you know, cover the shortfall from the main, but also bring in new lease providers which can cover the 20 and 10%. So we're just a bit more protected for things that go wrong. So anyway, that's it for me today. I just wanted to talk that through with you. Those of you in business and entrepreneurship will understand these types of scenarios only too well, because it's a roller coaster. But hopefully it's given you a little bit of an understanding on how I deal with it, and try and not just scream from the top of the trees or make irrational decisions, and actually break it down in a logical, rational way, and then put contingencies in place which are just minor tweaks, minor amendments on what we're doing. If we try and start a whole new business, you're going to go back a year. This is the business we've built over the past year. It's not broken. We've just been over-reliant on a supplier. So we just need to amend that side of the business and then onwards and upwards. So I hope that's useful anyway. Any questions and stuff, drop me a comment. I'll respond to everyone. Please remember that this vlog is part of the bigger picture, which is the Runpreneur Challenge, which is our mission to save the lives of children by raising £1 million for 6 amazing children's charities, which between them support and cover the whole spectrum of issues affecting children on a global scale. So to raise this money, we're going to attempt the ultimate ultra marathon, which is run vlogging on consecutive days the distance of 1 lap around the world. It's a 12-year challenge of consecutive daily running, averaging 9.2 kilometres every day. I do it whilst I vlog, and I also do it barefoot style. So someone going past me. Here's Barry. So it's 40,075 kilometres in total distance, just shy of 25,000 miles. So if you want to support the challenge, please go to the links in my bios or to the website challenge.runpreneur.co. Thank you for your support, and stay positive, stay happy, and I'll see you tomorrow.